Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Heart's Content Farmhouse, where every week I share a new, simple living tutorial, mostly bread baking and soap making. Today what we're going to be making is sourdough sandwich bread. This is a great way to make a really soft, almost grocery store style sandwich bread using your sourdough starter and no yeast whatsoever. You can add yeast to this recipe, which is going to make it a little bit fluffier, softer, and a whole lot faster, but you don't have to do it, and today I'm going to show you how to make it without any yeast at all. The ingredients we're going to need today are 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of powdered milk. We're also going to need 3/4 cup of sourdough starter. That has to be well-fed, active, mature starter, and 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of water. 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and the last ingredient is 2 tablespoons of softened butter. So the first step is just to combine every ingredient in a large mixing bowl. You do not have to be picky about the order they go in. You can just dump them in and then mix them up with a spoon. At this point, the dough is gonna look a little bit dry and it's gonna have sort of a rough, shaggy appearance. Don't worry about that. When we get to the next phase and we start kneading, everything is gonna smooth out. Now with any bread recipe, especially when we're measuring by volume, you have to eyeball the water amount, and if your dough looks super dry and is not coming together and forming a ball, you may have to add a little bit more. So I put the lower amount in the recipe just because it's easy to add more in, but hard to take it away. So if you end up needing to use about a tablespoon or so more of water, don't be surprised. We are gonna make this almost the same way that you would make a yeast bread recipe. We're just gonna mix and do a full knead. It's not like an artisan style where you're gonna do a stretch and fold. The only difference, so if you've made yeast bread before, you'll be very comfortable with this recipe. The only difference is the rising times are gonna be much, much longer, at least 4 hours for each rise. So after you mix, you wanna cover your mixing bowl with a damp tea towel and let this rest on the counter for about 30 minutes. This step is not totally essential, but it is gonna help your dough rise just a little bit better and make sure your ingredients are well incorporated. So after the dough has done its resting period, you're gonna knead this. Like I said, this is gonna be kneading almost like a yeast dough. So about 10 minutes in a mixer, or at least 10 minutes if you're kneading by hand, or you could even put this in your bread machine and just put it on the dough cycle, and that would work very, very well. You wanna keep an eye on this at first, because this is a stage where if your dough is too dry, you're gonna notice it. So if you're getting like little bits of dough that just are not incorporating in, you wanna add a little tiny bit more water, knead it in, and then see if the dough is starting to come together. If it is, even if it looks a little bit dry, that's okay, but if it's coming together, it's good. So you're gonna knead until the dough is very smooth, soft, and stretchy. That is how you know the gluten has developed enough. And at this point, we're gonna do the first rise. So to do that, we are just gonna get this dough, put it in a clean, lightly oiled bowl, and cover it with a damp tea towel and let it rise. Like I said, at least 4 hours. This dough has a lot of extra ingredients with the powdered milk and the egg, so it's heavier than most sourdough recipes, so it really is gonna be slow going. So I like to put this in a slightly warm oven, and so I set it to 100 degrees, turn the oven off, put the dough in covered, and just let it rise. And it is gonna take a while, you just have to be patient. So once the dough has doubled in size, we can move on to the next stage, which is shaping this into a loaf. So it may not come up to the top of the bowl, that's okay. We just want it to be about doubled in size. And then to shape it into a loaf, we're gonna turn it out onto the counter, stretch it out to a rectangle, and you want the short side of your rectangle to be as long as the long side of your loaf pan. And then just keep stretching that down until you have a long rectangle. Now when you're forming a sandwich loaf, you wanna remember the saying, shoulders in, head down. So that just means you tuck in those top 2 corners, tuck down the head of the loaf, and then roll it up. You're just gonna pinch the seams, the long seam on the back, short seams on the sides, and pop it into a greased loaf pan. So this is gonna be at least 4 hours in a slightly warm oven, or you can leave it in your countertop, and there it'll probably take more like 6 or 7 hours depending on the temperature of your room. So just keep an eye on it. It might seem like it's going really slow, but just be patient, it will rise. Towards the end of the rising time, when it's almost done, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and then all that's left to do is to bake this loaf. It is going to take about 40 minutes. The top is going to be golden brown. If you want to do something on the top before you bake it, you can. You can do an egg wash, you can just rub it with flour, whatever you want. That's going to be just for looks, so it's totally up to you. And then, like any sourdough, you want to make sure that this cools completely before you slice it. And again, that's gonna take about 4 hours. So this is a long process, but it is a great way to get a true sourdough sandwich bread. And it has a nice, soft, fine texture that makes it great for toast, great for sandwiches, and something that the kids will enjoy eating as well. So what I will do is put the full recipe in the description box below, and I'll also put a link to my blog where you could print that off in a printer-friendly format, whichever one is easier for you. And that is it. So I hope you like this recipe, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.